I think that Biden is trying to portray Putin as a murderer, war criminal, and a butcher. And he is right about all these terms. I think the basic idea behind it is that the United States feels that Putin is no longer a legitimate leader, and even if he were to withdraw from all the territories that he captured in the Ukraine, he would still be under enormous Western pressure to simply punish and deter Russia and other authoritarian countries such as China and Iran.
How big is the risk of that in this moment here as attention is so focused on Ukraine? Do you believe there are other schemes in the works right now, plans being made to challenge U.S. hegemony, essentially?
Yeah, so Biden went to Europe to meet NATO leaders, EU leaders, G7, and the purpose was to coordinate military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine, as well as to deter possible invasion of neighboring NATO members. This is something that the West has been concerned about for a long time. And so what Biden is saying, if Putin were to move 1 inch into a NATO member, NATO will take action to defend those states.
Now to bring Israel into the conversation, we heard this come up in the press conference just a bit earlier with Secretary of State Blinken, Foreign Minister Lapid, where Blinken essentially heaping praise on his Israeli counterpart for all the efforts made towards the efforts to sanction Russia, to help the Ukrainians. But has Israel been a true partner in those efforts to basically corner Russia?
Yes, first of all, I think this is an important statement because there were all kinds of criticism about the Israeli ostensible neutral position between Ukraine and Russia, given the very sensitive position of Israel having good relations both with the United States, Ukraine, and Russia. So when the Secretary of State is praising Israel, this is quite important. And I think that he mentioned the things that are important. Israel really condemned, the foreign minister condemned the Russian invasion and the damage it inflicts, the brutal damage it inflicts on the Ukrainians. And so far, this policy is holding up.
In terms of the war effort around Ukraine and certainly to sanction Russia here, with the U.S. Secretary of State coming to Israel today, taking part in the summit, what is it the U.S. is looking to get out of this series of meetings?
I mentioned it earlier. I think they are aware of the criticism that Israel and the Sunni Arab countries are making over the nuclear deal. And they also want to hear what the United States has to say about the emerging defense alliance that all these countries are establishing. This was not clear. On the contrary, the Biden administration took actions and made statements against Saudi Arabia and the Emirates and even against Egypt based on human rights violations. This has been an absurdity in American foreign policy because Iran is the greatest violator of human rights in the world. So Iran is okay and Egypt is not. So I think that the secretary will hear severe criticism about this issue, and this is related to the war in the Ukraine because the United States asked the oil-producing countries in the Gulf, especially Saudi Arabia, to increase production of oil to ease shortages created by the sanctions. But Saudi Arabia so far refused because of that hostile position as they perceived it from Biden administration.